The alarm on the bridge of the Serenity's edge rang 3 times, which meant routine business. Captain Zethkar barely looked up from his morning reports as his second officer approached. The Velthari captain had crystal-like skin that caught the light from the ship's displays, making him look like a living gemstone. "Sir, we have received our assignment from the Galactic Council," Officer Mithen said, holding a small data pad. Her voice carried the musical quality that all Velthari possessed. Zethkar waved one of his forearms without looking away from his screen. "What is it this time? Another diplomatic escort mission to the Outer Rim?" "Not exactly, sir. We are to retrieve a specimen from the quarantined world Terra 3. Now Zethkar looked up. His large, faceted eyes reflected light like diamonds. "Terra 3? The Deathworld the Council has been monitoring?" "Yes, sir. One of their species crashed on Kepler 442b 6 months ago. A research expedition that was not authorized by their primitive government. The survivor is designated as Dr. Sarah Chen, a female human scientist." Zethkar leaned back in his command chair. Humans were classified as Class 7 species, which meant they were barely above the level of animals. The Council had been watching their blue and green world for decades, mostly for entertainment. The violent little creatures were fascinating to study but far too dangerous to allow into civilized space. "Just one survivor?" he asked. "According to our long-range sensors, yes. The others died in the crash or shortly after. This one has been living alone on the surface for over 200 standard days." The captain made a sound that was something like laughter. In all his 300 years of service, he had never heard of any species surviving that long on a Class 9 death world. Even the Velthari, with all their advanced technology, would struggle to last a month on such a hostile planet. "Impossible," he said. "Our xenobiologist predicted that any human would suffer complete psychological breakdown within 60 days of isolation. They are pack animals. They need their group to function. That is what makes this so interesting, sir. The human appears to be not only alive but thriving. Our scans show she has built some kind of shelter and is moving around the planet's surface regularly." Zethkar pulled up the file on his personal screen. Dr. Sarah Chen, age 34, trained in something called xenobiology. Her picture showed a small creature with brown skin and dark hair. Like all humans, she looked fragile and weak. Her species had no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities that the Council could detect. "They were just persistent and violent. What are our orders?" he asked. "Standard extraction and relocation. The Council wants her moved to Research Station Gamma 7, where they can study her survival adaptations. They are particularly interested in understanding how she managed to avoid the predicted mental breakdown." The captain nodded. Research Station Gamma 7 was basically a very comfortable prison, where the Council kept dangerous specimens. The humans would call it kidnapping, but the Council called it protection. They were protecting the galaxy from the humans, and protecting the humans from themselves. "How many crew members died in their original crash?" Zethkar asked. 5 others. The crash site shows evidence that at least 2 survived the initial impact, but the planet's predators eliminated them within days. "This, Dr. Chen, is either extremely lucky or extremely dangerous." Zethkar made that laughing sound again. "Or both. Set course for Kepler 442b. This should be a simple extraction mission. 1 small human against a crew of trained Velthari warriors? What could possibly go wrong?" The journey to Kepler 442b took 4 days. During that time, Zethkar read everything the Council had on humans. They were violent, that much was clear. Their entire history was one long story of war, conquest and destruction. They fought each other constantly and seemed to enjoy it. They had weapons that could destroy their entire planet, and somehow they had managed not to use them. Yet, the most disturbing thing about humans was their adaptability. They lived on every part of their planet, from frozen wastelands to burning deserts. They ate almost anything and could survive in conditions that would kill most species. The Council's scientists called them persistence hunters, which meant they would chase their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. But they were still primitive. They had barely figured out how to leave their own solar system. Their technology was crude, their society was chaotic, and their thinking was simple. The Council had decided that humans were too dangerous to contact until they evolved past their violent nature. That might take another 1,000 years if it happened at all. When the Serenity's edge reached Kepler 442b, Zethkar was surprised by what their sensors found. The planet was indeed a death world, with predators that could tear apart a Velthari warrior and weather patterns that changed without warning. The air was barely breathable, the gravity was too strong, and the radiation levels were dangerous, and somewhere down there, one small human had been living alone for 6 months. "Sir, we have located the human," reported Officer Mithen. "She is approximately 12 kilometers from the crash site in a valley near a freshwater source." "What is her condition?" "Healthy as far as we can tell. She appears to be maintaining some kind of camp. Our scans show multiple structures and what might be cultivated plants." Zethkar stared at the display screen. The human had not just survived, she had built a home. The Council's experts had been completely wrong about their predictions. This Dr. Chen was proving to be much more interesting than expected. "Prepare a shuttle," he ordered. "I want to see this Deathworld survivor for myself." The shuttle ride down to the planet's surface was rough. The atmosphere fought them every meter of the way, and the gravity made everything feel heavy. Zethkar brought 4 of his best security officers, though he doubted they would be needed. What could one human do against advanced alien technology? They landed in a clearing about 1 kilometer from the humans' camp. The air outside was thick and humid, filled with strange smells and the sounds of alien wildlife. Zethkar's environmental suit filtered the atmosphere, but he could still sense the hostility of this world. Everything here was designed to kill. "Sir, should we announce our presence?" asked Security Chief Korthal. "Yes, but carefully. We do not want to frighten the primitive. This must be handled with proper diplomatic protocol." They approached the human camp slowly, making sure their universal translator was working. As they got closer, Zethkar could see what Dr. Chen had built. It was more sophisticated than he had expected. The shelter was well designed for the local weather, and there were clear signs of agriculture. The human had not just survived, she had adapted. Dr. Sarah Chen was sitting by a small fire when they found her. She looked up as they approached, and Zethkar was struck by her eyes. They were dark and intelligent, and they showed no fear at all. If anything, she looked cautious and calculating. "Dr. Chen," Zethkar said through his translator, "I am Captain Zethkar of the Galactic Council vessel Serenity's Edge. We are here to rescue you." The human stood slowly, and Zethkar noticed how smoothly she moved. There was something predatory about the way she balanced on her feet, ready to move in any direction. Her hands hung loose at her sides, but he got the feeling they could become weapons very quickly. "I didn't ask to be rescued," she said quietly. Her voice was calm, but something in her tone made Zethkar's security officers shift nervously. The universal translator was working perfectly, so why did he feel like he was missing something important? This was going to be more complicated than he had thought. Captain Zethkar smiled in what he hoped was a reassuring way. His crystalline features caught the light from the alien sun, creating rainbow patterns across his face. He had dealt with primitive species before, and the key was always patience and kindness. Show them the benefits of galactic civilization, and they usually became cooperative. "Dr. Chen, please understand that we are here to help you," he said, keeping his voice gentle. "You have been stranded on this dangerous world for over 6 months. It is remarkable that you have survived, but you cannot stay here forever." The human woman continued to watch him with those dark, intelligent eyes. She had not moved from her position near the fire, but Zethkar noticed that she had shifted slightly so that she could see all of his security team. It was a small thing, but it suggested tactical thinking. "I survived this long without your help," she said. "Why do you think I need it now?" "Because this is a Class 9 death world," Officer Mithen said, stepping forward. "No species should attempt to live here without proper technological support. The predators alone could kill you at any time." Dr. Chen looked at Mithen for a long moment, then made a sound that might have been laughter. "The predators and I have reached an understanding." Zethkar felt a chill run through his crystalline body. The way she said it suggested that the understanding had not been reached through peaceful negotiation. But that was impossible. Humans were classified as having limited combat capability. They were tool users, but they lacked any natural weapons or defensive systems. "Dr. Chen," he said, "let me explain the situation. Your species, humanity, is currently under observation by the Galactic Council. We have been monitoring your world, Terra 3, for several decades. While your people show promise, you are not yet ready for full contact with galactic civilization." "Not ready how?" she asked. Zethkar chose his words carefully. It was important not to insult primitive species, even when explaining their limitations. Your people are still quite violent. Your history shows constant warfare, and your society is not stable enough for peaceful integration. The Council has determined that humans need more time to evolve past these aggressive tendencies. The human's expression did not change, but something in her posture shifted. Zethkar's security chief, Korthal, took a small step backward. Even with all their advanced training, the Velthari retained some ancient instincts about danger. "So you've been watching us," Dr. Chen said. "For decades. Yes, but only to ensure your safety and the safety of other species. When humanity is ready, you will be welcomed into the galactic community. Until then, we must be careful." "And my research team? The 5 people who died in the crash. Were you watching them too?" Zethkar hesitated. This was the difficult part of these conversations. Primitive species often had strong emotional attachments to their group members. "We are sorry for your loss. However, unauthorized exploration beyond your solar system is dangerous. That is why the Council maintains the quarantine protocols." "Quarantine protocols," she repeated slowly. "So we're prisoners on our own planet." "Not prisoners," Mithan said quickly. "Protected. Your species needs time to develop proper peaceful instincts before you can safely interact with other civilizations." Dr. Chen was quiet for several long seconds. The only sounds were the crackling of her fire and the strange calls of alien wildlife in the distance. When she spoke again, her voice was very calm. "And what happens to me now?" "You will be relocated to a research facility where you can be properly cared for," Zethkar explained. "Research Station Gamma 7 is very comfortable. You will have food, shelter, medical care, and access to educational materials about galactic civilization. Our scientists are very interested in studying how you managed to survive here for so long." "A research facility," she said. "To study me. To help us understand human adaptability," he corrected. "Your survival here is unprecedented. No other species has managed to live alone on a Class 9 Deathworld for so long without technological support. Understanding how you did it could help us better prepare for eventual human integration into galactic society." "And if I refuse to go?" Zethkar spread his forearms in a gesture of reasonableness. "Why would you refuse? You would be safe, comfortable, and contributing to important scientific research. Surely that is better than struggling to survive on this hostile world." Dr. Chen stood up slowly, and Zethkar was again struck by how smoothly she moved. There was no wasted motion, no hesitation. She moved like a predator, which was ridiculous because humans were not predators. They were omnivores with tool use capability. "Captain Zethkar," she said, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "How many other species has the Council quarantined like this?" The question surprised him. "Several. It is standard procedure for species that show potential, but are not yet ready for peaceful contact." "And how many of those species eventually get invited to join galactic civilization?" Zethkar hesitated again. That was not really information that primitive species needed to know. The process takes time. Some species develop faster than others. "How many?" she repeated. Something in her tone made his security team shift nervously again. Zethkar decided to answer honestly. After all, what could one human do with the information? "None yet," he admitted. "But humanity is still young. You have only had spaceflight for a few decades. Other species have been under observation for much longer." "How much longer?" "Some for several thousand years." Dr. Chen nodded slowly, as if this confirmed something she had suspected. "So the quarantine is permanent. You're not protecting us or helping us develop. You're keeping us isolated because you're afraid of us." "Afraid?" Zethkar made his laughing sound again. "Dr. Chen, you are one small human on a hostile planet. We are a crew of trained Velthari warriors with advanced technology. What could we possibly have to fear from you?" The human smiled then, and Zethkar felt that chill again. It was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile that showed teeth. "You want to study human adaptability?" she asked. "You want to understand how I survived here for 6 months?" "Yes. Then let me ask you another question. What makes you think I've been trying just to survive?" Before Zethkar could ask what she meant, Dr. Chen took a step backward toward her shelter. "I need to gather my things," she said. "Give me a few minutes to pack up my camp." Zethkar nodded graciously. "Of course. Take whatever personal items you wish, though I should mention that you will not need survival equipment at the research station. Just some personal belongings," she said, "things that have sentimental value." The human disappeared into her shelter, and Zethkar turned to his security team. "Post guards at the perimeter," he ordered quietly. "Not because I expect trouble, but because proper protocol requires it." Security Chief Korthal selected 2 officers to watch the area while he and the others remained near the shelter entrance. It was all routine procedure for dealing with potentially unpredictable primitive species. As they waited, Zethkar looked around Dr. Chen's camp with growing respect. She had not just survived here, she had built something impressive. The agriculture plots were well designed. The water collection system was ingenious, and the shelter looked capable of withstanding the planet's violent weather. But there was something else, something that made his ancient predator detection instincts prickle with unease. The camp was too well organized, too carefully planned. It looked less like a desperate survival effort and more like a military installation. "Sir," Officer Mython said quietly, "our sensors are detecting some unusual energy signatures from the shelter." "What kind of energy signatures?" "Unknown. The readings are consistent with some form of technology, but not any technology we recognize." Zethkar frowned. Humans were supposed to be primitive. Their most advanced tools were barely capable of interplanetary travel. What kind of technology could Dr. Chen possibly have built from salvaged crash materials and local resources? "How long has she been in there?" he asked. Korthal checked his chronometer. 14 minutes. That seems like a long time to gather a few personal belongings. As if in response to his words, Dr. Chen's voice called out from inside the shelter. "Almost ready, Captain. Just give me 1 more minute." Her voice sounded perfectly calm and friendly, so why did every instinct Zethkar possessed tell him that something was terribly wrong? "Sir," whispered one of the perimeter guards through their communication system, "I'm detecting movement in the forest. Multiple contacts, but I can't get a clear reading on what they are." "Local wildlife," Zethkar replied, but he wasn't sure he believed it. Dr. Chen emerged from her shelter carrying a small pack. She looked completely relaxed and smiled pleasantly at the Velthari officers. "Ready to go," she announced. But as she stepped into the clearing, Zethkar noticed something that made his crystalline blood run cold. The pack she carried was not the only thing that had changed. Dr. Chen herself was different. She moved with the same smooth grace as before, but now there was something predatory about her posture that had not been there before. And her eyes. Her dark human eyes now held a look that Zethkar had seen before, but only in the gaze of apex predators about to strike. "Excellent," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Our shuttle is just 1 kilometer from here. The walk should not take long." "Actually," Dr. Chen said, still smiling that unsettling smile, "I think there's been a change of plans." That was when the explosion was not random. Captain Zethkar realized that immediately as he watched the perfectly timed blast disable his perimeter guards. Dr. Chen had not just been gathering personal belongings in her shelter. She had been activating a trap that had been months in the making. "Security positions," Korthal shouted, but his voice was drowned out by a second explosion that sent a cascade of rocks tumbling down from the hillside above. The falling stones forced the Velthari to scatter, breaking their formation and separating them from each other. Dr. Chen had vanished. One moment she had been standing in front of her shelter with that predatory smile, and the next she was gone. The human woman had disappeared into terrain she knew better than her own home planet. "Where did she go?" Zethkar demanded, his crystalline features reflecting the orange glow from the fires now burning around the camp. "Unknown, sir," Officer Mython replied, her musical voice strained with stress. "Our scanners are showing multiple heat signatures, but they keep moving and changing position." A third explosion echoed from the direction of their shuttle, and Zethkar felt his confidence crack like damaged crystal. "Report, what was that?" "Sir, that was from our landing site," came the voice of Pilot Vethan through their communication system. "The shuttle has been disabled. I repeat, the shuttle has been disabled. How is that possible? You were supposed to stay with the ship." "Sir, I never left the shuttle. The explosion came from underneath. The human must have planted charges while we were away from the landing site." Zethkar stared around at the chaos that had been Dr. Chen's peaceful camp just minutes before. The fires were spreading in a pattern that seemed designed to force them into specific positions. The rockfall had blocked their most obvious escape route. And somewhere in this carefully orchestrated disaster, one small human was hunting them. "Sir," Security Chief Korthal said quietly, "I think we may have underestimated this human. A sound like breaking glass echoed through the forest, and two of his officers cried out in pain. Their environmental suits were cracking, the crystalline material that protected Velthari physiology from hostile atmospheres failing under some kind of sonic attack. Impossible, Zethkar whispered. She's using sound as a weapon. The attack stopped as suddenly as it had begun, leaving his officers gasping and struggling to repair their damaged suits. In the silence that followed, Dr. Chen's voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Captain Zethkar," she called out, her words echoing off the rocky walls of the valley. "I think we need to renegotiate our agreement. Where are you?" He shouted back, "Right where I've always been. On my world and my territory with all the advantages that brings." Her voice was coming from a different direction now. "You wanted to study human adaptability? Lesson 1. Humans don't just adapt to their environment. They adapt their environment to them." Another sonic pulse shattered the crystals on Officer Mithen's breathing apparatus, and she collapsed to her knees, struggling to breathe the alien atmosphere. Zethkar realized with growing horror that Dr. Chen had somehow learned about Velthari physiology and was using that knowledge against them. "How do you know about our biology?" he demanded. "Your own databases," came the reply, still echoing from multiple directions. "Very educational reading material. Did you know that your universal translator works both ways? While you were scanning me, I was learning everything your computers were willing to share about galactic civilization." Zethkar felt a chill that had nothing to do with the planet's harsh climate. During first contact, their scanning protocols automatically shared basic biological information to help the translator work properly. It was standard procedure, designed to prevent accidental harm to primitive species. But Dr. Chen had somehow used that same information to learn their weaknesses. "This is impossible," he said. "You're a Class 7 species. You don't have the technology to build sonic weapons." "You're right," Dr. Chen admitted, and now her voice seemed to be coming from directly behind him. "I don't have technology. I have something better. I have 6 months of practice and a very good understanding of local resources." Zethkar spun around, but there was nothing there except shadows and dancing firelight. "What do you want?" "Originally, I wanted to be left alone to complete my research. But since you've made that impossible, I want answers. Starting with what happened to my team." "They died in the crash," Korthal said, trying to keep his voice steady as he worked to repair his environmental suit. "No," Dr. Chen replied, and there was ice in her voice now. "I found the crash site. I found the bodies. 2 of them didn't die in the crash, Captain. They were killed afterward. By energy weapons." Zethkar felt his crystalline skin grow cold. The human was right, of course. Standard procedure for unauthorized expeditions was to eliminate any survivors who might carry dangerous knowledge back to their home worlds. It was for the greater good of galactic civilization, but he had not expected her to figure that out. "Dr. Chen," he said, "you must understand that certain protocols exist for the safety of all species." "Safety," she repeated, and now her laugh echoed through the valley like breaking glass. "You killed my friends for safety." The 4th explosion took out their long-range communications array. The blast was precise, targeted, and completely destroyed their ability to call for help from the orbiting ship. Dr. Chen had cut them off from any possibility of rescue or reinforcement. "Sir," Officer Mithen gasped, still struggling with her damaged breathing apparatus, "we need to reach the shuttle. Even damaged, it might have enough power to get us back to the ship." "The shuttle is 1,200 meters away," Korthal reported, checking his scanner. "Through terrain the human knows perfectly and we have never seen before." "Then we make our stand here," Zethkar decided. "She's only one person. We have advanced weapons and trained soldiers." As if in response to his words, the ground beneath their feet began to vibrate. At first, Zethkar thought it was another explosion, but the vibration was too regular, too rhythmic. It sounded almost like footsteps, very large footsteps. Sir," Officer Mithen said, her voice very small. "What was that thing you said about Dr. Chen reaching an understanding with the local predators?" The creature that emerged from the forest was unlike anything in the Galactic Council's databases. It stood 3 meters tall with armored skin and claws that could tear through their environmental suits like paper. Its eyes reflected the firelight with predatory intelligence, and when it looked at the Velthari officers, it made a sound like grinding stone. But when it looked at Dr. Chen, who had somehow appeared on a rocky outcrop above them, the creature made a completely different sound. Almost like a greeting, "This is Goliath," Dr. Chen said, reaching down to pat the massive predator's head. He was the first local resident I met. We had a bit of a misunderstanding at first, but we worked things out. "Worked things out how?" Zethkar asked weakly. "I saved his cub from a rock slide. Turns out even apex predators understand gratitude." After that, he introduced me to his friends. More shapes moved in the forest around them. Smaller than Goliath, but still large enough to be deadly. The local predators had not just accepted Dr. Chen as a neighbor. They had accepted her as part of their pack. "This is impossible," Officer Methan whispered. "Humans are not pack animals. You cannot bond with alien predators." "Another thing your council got wrong about my species," Dr. Chen replied. "Humans can pack bond with almost anything. It's one of our most dangerous traits." Zethkar looked around at the tactical situation and felt something he had never experienced in 300 years of service. Fear. Pure, primal fear of being hunted by something smarter and more dangerous than himself. "What do you want?" he asked again. "First, I want you to signal your ship and tell them to leave." "I cannot do that." "Yes, you can. You have emergency communication gear and your personal equipment. I've been watching you for 6 months, Captain. I know what you carry." Zethkar reached for his emergency communicator with trembling hands. "And if I refuse?" Dr. Chen gestured to the predators surrounding them. "Then I let my friends handle this their way. And trust me, you don't want that." As if to emphasize her point, Goliath opened his massive jaws and showed teeth that were each longer than a Velthari finger. The other predators moved closer, their eyes reflecting the firelight like living jewels. "Dr. Chen," Zethkar said desperately, "you are making a terrible mistake. The Galactic Council will not tolerate this. They will send more ships, more soldiers." "Let them come," she replied, and her smile was sharp as broken glass. "I've had 6 months to prepare for one ship. Imagine what I can do with more time." Zethkar activated his emergency communicator and sent the signal to his ship. He told them to leave orbit immediately and report to the Council that the human extraction mission had failed. He told them to classify Dr. Sarah Chen as a Class 1 threat and recommend no further contact. When he finished the transmission, Dr. Chen nodded approvingly. "Very good. Now for my second demand." "What?" "You're going to tell me everything you know about the Galactic Council, their quarantine protocols, and their plans for humanity. I cannot reveal classified information to a primitive species." The conversation lasted 4 hours. Captain Zethkar told Dr. Chen everything he knew about the Galactic Council, their monitoring protocols, their research stations, and their long-term plans for humanity. By the time he finished, the human woman's expression had changed from predatory satisfaction to cold, calculating anger. "So, humanity will never be allowed to join galactic civilization," she said. "The quarantine is permanent because the Council thinks we're too violent to ever change." "The Council believes in giving species time to evolve," Zethkar said weakly. He was exhausted from hours of questioning and still surrounded by predators that could kill him in seconds. "Thousands of years, while you watch and study us like animals in a zoo." Dr. Chen stood up from the rock where she had been sitting and began pacing. "And any humans who try to explore beyond our solar system are quietly eliminated. It is for the greater good of galactic peace." "Whose peace?" she asked. "Because it certainly isn't ours," Zethkar did not answer. He was beginning to understand that there was no answer that would satisfy this dangerous human. She had moved beyond anger into something much more frightening. She was planning. "Dr. Chen," Officer Methan said, her voice hoarse from breathing the alien atmosphere through her damaged suit. "What are you going to do with us?" The human looked at the injured Velthari officer with something that might have been sympathy. "That depends on what your ship does next." As if summoned by her words, a new sound filled the valley, the deep thrumming of engines in the upper atmosphere. Zethkar looked up and saw lights moving across the alien stars. "They came back," he whispered. Dr. Chen followed his gaze and nodded. "Of course they did. You told them I was a Class 1 threat. The Council doesn't leave Class 1 threats alive." The lights in the sky were moving in formation, more than one ship. Zethkar realized with growing horror that his emergency message had brought not just rescue but a full military response. The Council had decided that one human woman was dangerous enough to require multiple ships and heavy weapons. "They're going to sterilize this entire area," he said. "Probably," Dr. Chen agreed. "The Council doesn't take chances with dangerous species. But you're still here. Don't you understand what that means?" The human woman looked at him with those dark, intelligent eyes. It means they're about to learn why humans are called persistence hunters. She made a gesture that Zethkar did not recognize, and Goliath responded with a low rumble that seemed to come from deep in his massive chest. The other predators began moving, disappearing into the forest with the kind of coordinated precision that spoke of planning and practice. "Dr. Chen," Zethkar said urgently, "you need to run. Those ships have enough firepower to level this entire continent." "Run where?" she asked. "You told me the quarantine covers the whole galaxy. There's nowhere to run to. Then surrender. The Council is not unreasonable. If you cooperate, they might allow you to live at a research station." Dr. Chen laughed, and the sound was like breaking crystal. "Captain, you still don't understand what you're dealing with. Humans don't surrender when they're cornered. We get creative." The first orbital bombardment lit up the night sky like a miniature sun. The energy beam struck the valley exactly where Dr. Chen's camp had been, turning rock and metal into glowing plasma. The explosion was so bright that it temporarily blinded Zethkar's sensitive eyes. When his vision cleared, he expected to see a smoking crater where the human had been standing. Instead, he saw empty ground. Dr. Chen had vanished again along with her pack of alien predators. "Impossible," he breathed. "No one can move that fast." "Sir," Officer Mithen said, pointing at her scanner. "I'm reading multiple heat signatures moving through the underground cave system. She's not running away from the bombardment. She's positioning herself." A new voice crackled through their emergency communicator. "Ground team, this is Admiral Sekthara aboard the Council Dreadnought Harmony's Will. Report your status." Zethkar activated his communicator with shaking hands. "Admiral, this is Captain Zethkar. We are alive but trapped. The human has proven to be far more dangerous than predicted." "Understood, Captain. We are preparing to eliminate the threat with precision orbital strikes. Mark your position and take cover." "Admiral, you don't understand. She's not just hiding in caves. She's preparing something." Before the Admiral could respond, something streaked up from the forest below them. It was not a missile or an energy blast, but a solid projectile moving at impossible speed. Whatever Dr. Chen had launched struck the smallest of the orbiting ships, and the explosion bloomed like a deadly flower against the stars. "What was that?" Admiral Sekthara's voice was sharp with shock. Zethkar stared at his scanner readings and felt his crystalline blood freeze. "Admiral, she just built a railgun. Out of local materials and salvage technology. Impossible. Humans don't have the knowledge to build railgun weapons." "She does," Zethkar said quietly. "Dr. Chen is not just a xenobiologist. According to her file, she was also a military engineer before she joined the research expedition." The second projectile took out the communications array on the Admiral's flagship. The third punched through the shield generators on the Council frigate Peaceful Resolve. Each shot was perfectly aimed, striking critical systems without destroying the ships entirely. "She's not trying to kill them," Officer Mithen realized. "She's disabling them." "Sir," came a new voice through the communicator. "This is Pilot Vethen. I've managed to repair our shuttle enough for basic flight. If we can reach it, we might be able to get back to the ships." Zethkar looked around at the chaos surrounding them. The forest was burning from orbital bombardment. Alien predators were howling in the distance, and somewhere in this hell one human woman was single-handedly fighting a Council fleet. "Move out," he ordered. "Stay together and watch for traps." They had made it less than 100 meters when the ground opened up beneath them. Not an explosion this time, but a carefully constructed pitfall that separated the Velthari officers from each other. Zethkar found himself alone in a pit lined with sharp stakes, while his officers called out from similar traps scattered through the forest. "Captain?" Dr. Chen's voice drifted down from somewhere above him. "I think it's time we had another conversation." She appeared at the edge of his pit, silhouetted against the burning sky. Her human face was streaked with mud and what looked like war paint made from local plants. She looked like something from the violent legends of her species past. "How?" he asked. "How are you doing this?" 6 months of preparation," she replied. "I knew someone would come eventually. I've been building weapons, training predators, and mapping every cave and canyon on this continent. This isn't my prison, Captain. It's my fortress." Another ship exploded in orbit, its atmosphere bleeding out in a long, bright stream. Dr. Chen had somehow managed to build multiple railgun positions throughout the valley, all of them hidden and all of them targeting the Council fleet. "You're destroying military vessels of the Galactic Council," Zethkar said. "This is an act of war." No, Dr. Chen corrected. This is a demonstration. I'm showing your council what happens when you corner a Deathworld native who has nothing left to lose. She held up a device that Zethkar recognized as a salvaged communication unit, modified with local technology. I've been recording everything, Captain. Your confession about the quarantine protocols, the murder of my research team, the Council's plans for permanent human isolation, all of it. Who are you planning to send that to? Your species doesn't have interstellar communication. Dr. Chen smiled that predatory smile again. They do now. I've been reverse engineering your technology for 6 months. Human engineering principles applied to alien tech. We're very good at making things work better than the original designers intended. The implications hit Zethkar like a physical blow. If Dr. Chen could broadcast the truth about the Council's activities to Earth, it would change everything. Humanity would know that their isolation was enforced, not natural. They would know that peaceful contact was a lie designed to keep them contained. You'll start a war, he whispered. Maybe, she agreed, but it will be an honest war, not a secret genocide disguised as protection. Above them, the Council fleet was in full retreat. 3 ships disabled, 1 destroyed, and the rest pulling back to a safe distance. Admiral Sekthara's voice crackled through the communicator with barely controlled panic. All ships withdraw to minimum safe distance. The human has orbital strike capability. Repeat, the primitive has orbital strike capability. Dr. Chen laughed. Primitive. Your admiral still doesn't get it. She activated her modified communicator and began broadcasting on all frequencies. Her message was simple and clear. Humanity was not alone in the galaxy, but they were being kept isolated by force. The Galactic Council considered humans too dangerous for peaceful contact and would kill any who tried to leave their solar system. When she finished the broadcast, she looked down at Zethkar with something that might have been pity. The message will reach Earth in about 6 hours. After that, the Council will have to decide what they're going to do about a species that knows the truth. They'll send the full fleet, Zethkar said. They'll sterilize your entire world rather than risk humans spreading into the galaxy. Let them try, Dr. Chen replied. But first. 3 days later, the Galactic Council fleet returned to Kepler 442b with 47 ships and enough firepower to crack the planet's crust. Admiral Sekthara commanded from the bridge of the dreadnought Harmony's Will, his crystalline features reflecting the light from tactical displays that showed a seemingly helpless world below. Sir, reported his tactical officer, we have the human's position locked. She appears to be in the same valley where the initial contact occurred. Confirmed 1 target? Yes, sir. Dr. Sarah Chen is alone at her original campsite. No signs of advanced technology or orbital defense systems. Admiral Sekthara allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Council had been humiliated by 1 primitive human, but that would end today. The fleet would demonstrate what happened to species that dared to defy galactic civilization. Sir, the communications officer interrupted, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. On speakers, Dr. Chen's voice filled the bridge of the flagship, as calm and controlled as if she were discussing the weather. Admiral Sekthara, I assume? I'm Dr. Sarah Chen. I believe we need to talk. Surrender immediately, the Admiral replied. You have 60 seconds before we begin orbital bombardment. I don't think so, came the response. You see, Admiral, I've spent the last 3 days making some improvements to this system. Why don't you take a look at your long-range sensors? The tactical officer's face went pale as his readings came in. Sir, we have multiple contacts throughout the system. Ships approaching from the outer planets. Impossible. Humans don't have interstellar capability. Sir, they're human ships. I'm reading at least 12 vessels, all showing Earth registry codes. Admiral Sekthara felt his confidence crumble. How? The quarantine should have prevented any ships from leaving their solar system. Dr. Chen's laugh echoed through the bridge. Admiral, did you really think my broadcast 3 days ago only went to Earth? I sent my message to every human colony and research station in human space. Turns out, we've been a lot more active than your council realized. The tactical display updated, showing the approaching human fleet in detail. The ships were crewed by galactic standards, built for exploration rather than war, but there were more of them than the council's intelligence had suggested possible. Sir, the tactical officer reported, I'm reading weapons signatures on the human vessels. They appear to have modified their ships for combat. Modifications based on Council technology, Dr. Chen added helpfully. Amazing what humans can do when they have detailed technical specifications to work from. Thank you for that, by the way. Your databases were very educational. Admiral Sekthara realized that the human had been planning this moment for far longer than 3 days. She had been preparing for a full-scale confrontation since the moment she crashed on this Deathworld. "Sir," came a new voice from the communication station. "We're receiving a transmission from the lead human vessel." "Dr. Chen," said a new voice, older and carrying the authority of command. "This is Admiral Rebecca Torres of the Earth Space Navy vessel Endurance. Are you all right?" "I'm fine, Admiral Torres. Just having a chat with our galactic neighbors about their hospitality policies." Admiral Sekthara listened to the exchange with growing dread. The humans were not panicking or demanding negotiation. They were coordinating like a military force that had been preparing for this confrontation. "Admiral Sekthara," Dr. Chen continued, "I'd like you to meet Admiral Torres. She was my commanding officer before I became a xenobiologist. Turns out, when humans receive evidence that their people are being murdered by alien governments, they tend to take it personally." "Dr. Chen?" Admiral Torres' voice was professional and cold. "What's the tactical situation?" 47 council ships, mostly frigates and destroyers, with 1 dreadnought flagship. They're positioned for orbital bombardment, but they seem hesitant to begin. I think they're starting to understand that this isn't going to be as simple as they expected. Admiral Sekthara activated his own communication system. "Human vessels, you are in violation of Galactic Council quarantine protocols. Return to your designated space immediately or face the consequences." "Admiral," came Admiral Torres' reply, "we tried staying in our designated space. Your people kept killing anyone who tried to leave. That ends today. You cannot defeat a Council fleet with primitive Earth technology." "Maybe not," Admiral Torres agreed, "but we won't be using primitive Earth technology." The human ships suddenly accelerated beyond what their reactor signatures should have allowed. Their crude hulls were moving with the grace and speed of Council military vessels, and their weapons were charging with energy patterns that Admiral Sekthara recognized as far too advanced for human science. "Sir," his tactical officer reported with barely controlled panic, "the human ships are showing Council-level technology signatures. Somehow they've integrated our systems into their vessels." Admiral Sekthara looked at the tactical display and finally understood what Dr. Chen had accomplished. She had not just survived on this death world for 6 months. She had built a fortress, studied Council technology, and prepared detailed specifications that had been transmitted to every human colony in their space. "Dr. Chen," he said slowly, "what have you done?" "I've done what humans do, Admiral. I've adapted. 6 months ago, humanity was contained by the Council's technological superiority. Today, that advantage no longer exists. The human fleet moved into attack formation with the precision of veteran warriors. But they did not open fire. Instead, Admiral Torres transmitted on all frequencies. Ships of the Galactic Council, this is Admiral Rebecca Torres commanding the human fleet. You have exactly 1 opportunity to withdraw from this system and return to Council space. If you choose to fight, you will discover why humans are called Deathworld natives." Admiral Sekthara looked at his fleet deployment and realized that the tactical situation had completely reversed. The humans had not just matched Council technology, they had improved it. Their ships were faster, their weapons were more efficient, and their coordination was flawless. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Council homeworld." The message was brief and absolute. Under no circumstances was Admiral Sekthara to engage the human fleet in direct combat. The Council had reviewed Dr. Chen's transmitted data and determined that humanity represented a Class 1 strategic threat. All forces were to withdraw immediately and await further instructions. Admiral Sekthara closed his eyes, feeling 300 years of Council superiority crumbling around him. "All ships prepare to withdraw." "Wait," Dr. Chen's voice stopped him. "Before you go, Admiral, I have one final message for the Council." Against his better judgment, Admiral Sekthara activated his communications array. Dr. Chen appeared on his main screen, no longer the mud-streaked survivor he had first encountered. She was clean, wearing what looked like a modified Council uniform, and standing in what was clearly the command center of a sophisticated military installation. "Members of the Galactic Council," she began, "this is Dr. Sarah Chen, representing humanity in our first official diplomatic contact. I want you to understand exactly what has happened here. The camera pulled back to show the extent of her operation. The primitive shelter had been the visible part of a massive underground complex. Weapons manufacturing, communication arrays, research laboratories, and barracks for what looked like hundreds of personnel. You made 3 critical errors in your assessment of my species, Dr. Chen continued. First, you assumed that humans are individually dangerous but collectively chaotic. You were wrong. When humans face a common threat, we coordinate better than any species you've encountered. The display showed human ships throughout the system, all moving in perfect formation. Second, you assumed that our technology was inferior and would remain so. You were wrong. Humans don't just adapt to new technology. We improve it. Technical specifications scrolled across the screen, showing council systems enhanced with human engineering principles. Energy efficiency increased by 30%, weapon accuracy improved by 40%, and shield strength doubled through modifications that council scientists had never considered. Third, and most importantly, you assumed that quarantine would keep us contained indefinitely. You were wrong. Humans are persistence hunters, Admiral. We don't give up, we don't surrender, and we never stop looking for a way out. Dr. Chen stepped closer to the camera, and Admiral Sekthara saw in her eyes the same predatory intelligence that had terrified him on the planet's surface. The quarantine is over, she said simply. Humanity is now a spacefaring civilization with the technology and the will to defend itself. The Council can choose to accept us as equals, or you can try to fight us, but you cannot ignore us and you cannot contain us. She paused, letting that sink in before delivering her final message. Oh, and one more thing. The human fleet you see here represents less than 10% of our actual military capability. The rest of our forces are currently surrounding every council monitoring station and research facility in human space. Your choice is simple: peaceful coexistence or total war. Admiral Sekthara looked at his tactical displays one final time, seeing council superiority replaced by human determination and ingenuity.